Hi, and welcome to today's webinar for Build Exact. Thanks so much for joining us. I know we've got many people in one room there in Taupo, New Zealand, so welcome to you guys as well. So my name's Steve Allison. I'm from Build Exact. Today we've got a whole bunch of things we want to do with you today. As you know, the focus today is, look, we're really busy, and you know, every builder I know is really busy. And so what we want to do is talk to you about how do we save time, you know, increase profits whilst, you know, you remain busy. And specifically, you know, in this time where the supply issues are quite tough, we want to talk to you about how to do a few, really save time, win, and make profits. So let's get going. We've got an action-packed webinar today. So as I said, we're going to talk to you about how to save time, you know, on quoting, how to save time on jobs, on scheduling, on invoicing, those things you have to do, how to win more work, and how to increase profits at the same time. Now, just a little bit of housekeeping here. So this is a webinar. It might, every now and then, we're going to have a Q&A later on, but I really encourage you to ask questions, you know, via the chat mechanism. You'll see it down the bottom of the webinar. You see a little chat button or Q&A. Please feel free to type in the questions there as we go along. And we're going to answer questions towards the end. But first of all, let me just talk a little bit about Build Exact and why we're here today. So I'm talking to you whether you're a custom builder, maybe you're a mum and dad builder, maybe you're straight out of maybe your trades, universities, or there's larger builders I know that were registered today. And so, you know, might be doing 180 builds, or, you know, maybe you're doing decks and renovations and trades and carpenters, or maybe, you know, you're one of the many trades that use our platform, or are looking to use our platform, or needing a software. So carpenters, kitchen joinery, roofers, excavations, plasterers, landscapers, talking to all of you today. For a moment, I just want us to have a think about the kinds of steps that we need to do, right, as builders and trades. And so first of all, you've got to be able to sell the customer, right, and sell and market to the customer and go and find the leads. And then, of course, and I know some of you will be doing that through referral, but then of course you've got to do the estimates and takeoffs. And yeah, granted, some, you know, merchants are going to help you out with some of those pieces, but there's always an estimation and takeoff you need to do and quote to the customer. Then you need to contract the customer, right? Build a schedule, procure the materials, organize the trades and subbies on site, manage your on-site work. Then, you know, communicate with the homeowners, which takes so much time, doesn't it, right? And then manage your profit through that entire process. And I mean, you know, invoice as well. And so you can see there, when you start thinking about the amount of work you've got to do from end to end, there's quite a significant amount of time that it takes, right? Well, we did a survey with our customers recently, and just the estimate and takeoffs to get to a quote was costing, on average, when people really worked it out, 11 hours per quote. Now, you might do something that's a little bit quicker. Maybe it depends on the types of quotes you do. Or you might do something that you look at and go, 11 hours? It only costs you 11 hours worth of effort per quote. That's amazing. If you think about all the time that it takes you to make the quote look good, or to do the estimates, or do the takeoffs, or, you know, send it out to QSs, or whatever it is that your process is. You know, there's a lot of effort that goes in, but that's only one stage of this whole process. And that wasn't guaranteeing that you're going to win. So anything that we can do to speed this process up is what we want to talk to you about today. Now, we did a survey to our customers, and we went and asked them a whole bunch of questions about how long it takes you to quote, how fast it is to win, and how quickly can you get quotes out to your customers. So prior on the Build Exact on the platform, our builders said, look, it takes 19 days on average to get back to customers. After Build Exact, it takes 12 days. So it was 7 days faster to quote. We then said, well, how many hours did it take you to complete it? So prior Build Exact, about 11 hours on average, like we talked about before. Now it's about 6 hours on average to get a quote out. Detailed quote, by the way, of a major project, just so we give you some context, about 5 hours saving. And have you grown in the past 12 months? Yep, 38%. So rather than me talk about that, what I'm going to do is bring a customer on straight away. So John Peros, I know you're there waiting in the background. If you could put your video and sound on for me. I'm going to get you to hear from John, one of our builders, direct.
Yeah, okay.
Hey, John, how you doing?
Good, Steve. How's things, mate?
Yeah, good, thank you. So John, we're going to show Build Exact in a moment, but I thought, look, let's get you up front and center in this webinar because we want to hear from customers. So could you tell us a little bit about Peros Build, and how did you come to Build Exact? What were you trying to solve, and what was the outcome?
When I first started, mate, I was just your basic calculating every single component of the job, and screws and timbers and this, and it was so time consuming. I was getting a bit more work and reputation. I needed something, and I was looking for some sort of program to be able to just give me that time to be able to just do things quicker and faster and a bit more productive. I did look at a few other ones, but I come across Build Exact, and seriously, the cost and after the demo, it took me about, I reckon, 4 hours, and I went, this is exactly what I'm after. Just in the basic cost factor, and what the program actually gives you, and the speed of everything. It's one program in everything, and that cost factor is real value for money as well.
Right. That's so cool. So from memory, you do residential, you do commercial, you do insurance work, right?
Yep.
So, you kind of cover a whole gamut of different things. What's your take? Is, what we would say, we're in the business of helping customers go faster. And this is what we want to talk about today with the attendees. Work faster and smarter, and not harder, if you want to say that way. So get out to customers faster, save time on quotes, save time on scheduling, and really be able to grow. What's your take? Have you been able to grow your business on Build Exact?
Well, look, Build Exact, I can pretty much tell you now, without Build Exact over the last 2 years, my business wouldn't have grown anywhere near the amount it's grown. So I've actually implemented me completely off the tools, totally and utterly have nothing to do with the tools anymore. I solely spent all my time quoting, and I've set up my business now with all the other boys in the trades who execute all the work while I go and manage. And what it does, it also gives me that foundation with the customer to have that one contact on each job, and the communication. And whenever there's a question, it's all on the system on every single job. Nothing's out of place. It's all there when they want an updated. So for an example, I had a customer the other day want me to sorry about that noise, guys. I had a customer ask me about they wanted an updated costings on the invoices, where we're at, what they're owing. Click of a button, mate, bang, email, so efficient, professionally downloaded from their email after I've sent it, full attachment, and everything's there. It just makes life so easy.
Right. Yeah. So cool. So what would so we're going to bring you back towards the end, and I appreciate you just hanging on. And we're going to get one of the team members to walk through how do we do these things in a moment. How do we save time? How do we help win more business? How do we help those processes? But in round terms, what's your take if you're talking to people who are looking at putting in a system for the first time? What would you say to them? And especially, let's say, there's people on here today who are, very experienced builders. There's people on here today who are younger builders, and I'll get you to speak often to the younger builders, just because they might not have put in systems yet. What's your take?
Well, look, I've only been going for 4 years, right? So at the end of the day, I was very hesitant on spending money on a program like this, because, when you first start off, your float, your money, it's not where it needs to be be able to implement in something like this. But I can guarantee you the investment you put into Build Exact and the time and money that it saves you is second to none. Like it doesn't just save you money; it actually makes you money. So don't be frightened. I'm pretty sure, Steve, you do pay by the month on these type of things, and it just give it a go. That's all I'm going to say, because you will find, it's a story I've told you, Steve, I've been able to excavate and do my entire backyard with the time I saved, by not sitting at my desk quoting. So I've actually got work on my own house done, which never happens as a builder, as we all know in the industry. So
you got your personal time back, time with your
absolutely,
time to do what you wanted to do, right?
Yeah, and with the family as well, mate. So that's also important as well.
Absolutely. Really cool. Well, John, look, let's get you back on a little bit later on. And I know there's going to be some questions for you. What I want to do, guys, is so I'll get you to yeah, just put yourself back on mute and turn your video off. Thanks so much for hanging on here. And what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to demonstrate these things. So again, you know, what Build Exact looks to do is to help you streamline your entire business. So all those steps I showed you before, from sales and marketing through to estimates and takeoffs, through to, you know, scheduling and procuring the build and managing and invoicing, all the way through to the accounting, all those steps, you know, what we're looking to do is help support you in your business. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Luke, who's one of my counterparts, to come on. He's going to demonstrate the product to you. Luke, thanks so much for being here. I'm going to hand over to yourself, and I'll join back in a bit later.
Yeah, no worries. Cheers, Steve. And just want to say it's a privilege to be able to demo the software to people from the homeland. So everyone in New Zealand, really appreciate you sitting down with us today and allowing us to show you what we have to offer to New Zealand and Australian builders. So what I'm going to do today, team, is I'm going to take you through two main components of the software. The first component is going to be about estimating and winning work. And in that, it's going to be about uploading plans, smashing out takeoffs, and how a quote letter is going to be automatically generated for your client. And the second half will be taking you through how to manage the jobs that you've won. So everything from scheduling, cost tracking, variations, and invoicing. That will be the second half of the demo. And that will be the agenda today. So I guess without further ado, I'll kick into it. And before I start anything, I just wanted to say that Build Exact actually already has preloaded templates for different industries that use us. So as you can see, we've got roofing templates, kitchen and bathrooms, extensions, light commercial, double-story homes. So it's really easy to get started and I guess upload plans pretty much immediately to the software. But to start an estimate, you pretty much press the template that you're wanting and you put in the description, the building type, which could be a renovation, the customer name, and then you say okay. And what that's going to do is it's going to create a quote in the system, and this is where the software actually begins. So it begins with creating an estimate and then giving you a process to follow. So I guess most people that use us aren't really on the computer a lot, like this technology is a little bit foreign to them. So it's actually a really easy software to use. We've made it very user-friendly. You pretty much just have to follow these stages up the top sequentially and one by one. And the last step of the quoting process is your quote letter. So when in doubt, just follow the steps. Now, step one is just your estimate details, putting in your work location and so forth. But step two is actually where we upload the plans. So instead of printing out the plans, I mean, my old man was actually a builder himself, and we had tons of A1 pieces of paper littered around the dinner table after dinner. Yeah, with this, it's no paper. You just import the whole set of drawings directly into the system. And then what that will do is it will actually upload all of the plans for you. And then it's going to give you a couple of instructions to follow. So step one, it will say to draw a horizontal line on any plan below. And this could be a granny flat or a $2 million custom home. It's the same method for any set of drawings. You just click from one side of the plan to the other, and then it's going to give you a second instruction to follow, which is asking you how long your line is. So you can say 13920, say next, then it's going to say draw a vertical line. And this is just so when we do our takeoffs, it's just configuring all our plans. And I must stress that if you do put in these numbers correctly, so 11260, your takeoffs will be extremely accurate, like to the decimal. So that's all you have to do to scale your plans. You may have had 20 plans in there that would have done them all, and then you can hop to the third step, and this is where we actually can start to smash out our takeoffs and do takeoffs off those drawings. So before I guess get into that, I just wanted to explain these descriptions, and these are what we call cost centers. And the templates that we have around 42 different cost centers available, and they serve as a checklist so you can go through and not forget anything. And inside of each cost center, then you can have a list of all the different maybe cladding or brickwork materials and rates that you usually use from previous jobs. Now, in our cladding example, I've just got some pricing in here. This actually comes from ITM pricing. So I've actually got a square meter of cladding. And a good thing about Build Exact is we actually have a partnership with ITM now, so you can connect to your ITM supplier, and then that will be a live integration for the material. So you can actually see whenever there's a price range, that will notify in your account automatically, which is extremely valuable in this climate of, I guess, rapid material prices being changed all the time. Now, to do a takeoff just before, you can actually have recipes built in this that can have inside a square meter of cladding every single component that you're usually going to be using inside a square meter. And the benefit of that, it's going to produce a bill of quantities, an orderable bill of quantities after we've done the takeoff. Now, to do the takeoff, you click the takeoff tool, which is here. That is going to take us into the plans that we've just scaled. I can then hop on over to the elevations. And I always say it's basically just a coloring in job. You find where you're needing the cladding, and you pretty much click from one side to the other. And all I'm doing is clicking wherever there's a corner. I finish where I've started, and that alone in 5 seconds gives me 32 square meters of cladding. Now, I know everybody's thinking, what about the windows? So we do have a section to actually deduct out windows, and that's called draw deduction here. And I know, like, if you're doing renos, maybe some people tend to be a little bit more generous and leave them in, but up to you. You can shade them out if you need. It's that easy, and you might want to leave a door in or something like that. And then say accept and save. And what that will do is it will give you your total price based on your rates. It's going to be all ready to order and cost track later on. But more importantly, this takeoff will input directly into your quote letter as we do our takeoff. So as we're pricing up the job, the quote presentation for the client is automatically generated, which I'm going to show you a little bit later on in the demo. So that's how we do a takeoff, and it's the same. You'll notice that once you know how to do one for cladding, it's the same for brickworks or many other trades. So yeah, pretty easy to pick up. And once you're happy with something, you can complete it. Or if you ever want to search for, say, a different price material, you can add an item here and then browse your price list from, say, ITM or whoever it is that you're using. And all of these prices will be in here. So in this case, I might click the cladding section, and here's a list of every single cladding material that they supply. You click it, and that will bring that straight into your estimate costings for you. Very good. So I'm going to save that, and we'll say that's completed. I might show you another takeoff and then quickly how to send out a quote request, and then we'll move on into the quote letter. But I guess framing is a good one to show because everybody has to do framing. And look, you might get your framing prefabbed, and a lot of people I know will send that out to suppliers, and you can absolutely do that. What I think is a good way to do if you're doing on-site build or stick frame, I think they call it over here, is you can have framing rates in here and even build up recipes that has all the components inside a linear meter or square meter of framing. So it will actually calculate a cutting list for you. Now to do a takeoff for, say, the frame, I can click the takeoff tool, which is here. And then I can zoom on in and then pretty much click around the framing external like so. And that's all there is to it pretty much. You just say accept and save. That will then give you a total price, and then it will actually break down a cutting list for everyone to order as well a little bit later on. So that's how we do a framing takeoff. And look, even if you do prefab, if you know your supplier's rates, it can be faster to just do it for them, get the quote out first to the client, since it is so quick to use our takeoff tool. So I'll say that's completed. Okay, cool. So those are how we do 2 basic takeoffs, but it's very repetitive for all the other trades. Like once you know how to do 2 or 3, it pretty much transcribes into all the other trades. I'm going to show you something a little bit different now. 90% of people that I would talk to would actually ship out their plans to the plumber or the electrician to get quoted. Now, in order to do that in Build Exact, we actually have our own quote request tool. And the reason why we built this for the builder is, and our users, I should say, is because a lot of people were telling us that when they're quoting for large jobs or multiple jobs at the same time, it can get quite messy in the email trail and hard to keep on track of who you've sent what to and who's replied. So what we've done is we've made it possible for you to actually send out quote requests directly from BuildExact. So I can say maybe plumber to supply and install all plumbing, maybe this tap as well. I can say new quote request for 2 items. And then I could say plumbing RFQ, give them a deadline date, say the 3rd, say next. Because we've already uploaded our plans, they're ready to send. So you just tick this. Another overlooked feature is actually sending out takeoffs that you've already done. So you might want to send out the framing area to your framing supplier or your cladder. It works both ways. But for the scope of work, I could say see plans attached. You could be more creative than that, but say next. And then you can send this off to multiple trades in the area. So you might have 3 plumbers that you usually deal with. Steve, actually, mate, I might send this to you too, so you can reply. And then you just say for the invitation message, I'll say hi, say send. And that's all you have to do, because just so you know, this actually integrates with your email. So that's going to come off your own email. But the real value of doing it through BuildExact is it's going to sit in your quote request folder. So everything specific to this client and quote is going to sit in the one place. But not only that, it's going to categorize all the different quotes. And lastly, you can actually see who has opened your quotes. So it allows you to see what subcontractors are actually engaged in your quotes, who's opened them, gets rid of all the stragglers that don't even open the quotes, so you don't waste your time chasing up people that aren't worth it. And finally, when they do submit their amount, it's going to come directly back into BuildExact for you. So you can see here, Steve's already onto it. He's opened the quote. You can see that I'm quoting, and in the next 5 or 10 seconds, depending on how fast Steve is, we'll be able to see a price coming back. So it's really, really handy to be able to just see everybody's prices. You might not choose the cheapest one if it's a subcontractor, but you choose the one that's the best fit for the job. As you can see, 8,000, and then that's going to pop that straight into our estimate costings at the same time. So again, just keeping everything in the one system, one source of truth, and that's how we do costings and send out quote requests. And yeah, it's just a matter of chipping away at all the different cost centers, and you can customize this if you want to, or add stuff if you need, but it's just a matter of going through all the different steps. Okay, cool. So I'm going to get into the quote letter now and show you how that's presented for the client. We do have specifications if you wanted to add photos and write your scope of works. And the last step is your quote letter. So there are many ways to break this down, both aesthetically and financially. I guess the main thing is, I've said this 20 times by now, is it's automated. And I want to stress that because it is such a time saver of not having to write out another quote letter after you've done everything on your spreadsheet. And the cool thing about this is you can have your own cover page, but the best thing about it is probably your quoted items. So you can actually customize how you like to show the breakdown to the client, because I know for, say, a cost plus job, you might want to be very transparent and show the full breakdown so everything's out in the open. But a new home builder might just want to show the total figure at the end, and you're more than welcome to do that. I think a good option for, say, renovations and extensions could be to show the full breakdown, but actually hide the costs of everything. So that means that they can see all the detail that you've quoted and can't say that, hey, you know, my brother's a tiler, let's get that off. He can do it for a couple of grand cheaper. And, you know, you've probably heard all those stories by now, but just protects your pricing, but gives them the impression that you've sat down and given that a really good crack. And I think it can help them justify what that price is at the end, because them not being builders, it's hard for them to sort of understand the sheer amount of work and detail that goes into those particular projects. So I'll show you how it looks like now. So you press the email button, and they're going to get a PDF and also a link to click. So when they click the link, it's just a web link that we host, and they'll also receive a PDF as well. And of course, my internet's being a bit sluggish when it needs to be fast, but it will load up in a second. We've got our cover page here, and look, you can change all this if you need to. We've got your logo on here, your introduction statement. As you can see, the quoted items are all listed down here. After this, you can see all of your allowances. So I actually didn't highlight this in the costings, but we've got buttons that you can add to go straight to your allowance list, in this case, the tiles and the concrete provisional sums. We scroll down to the specs and inclusions, and this is just a chance for you to make your quote letter look a little bit different than everybody else's. And I always say just to pop a couple of photos, and even if it's a tap or two, can definitely make your quote letter look different than your competitors and make you look more professional. And as we go down, we'll have our final T's and C's, and you can have a quote summary and a total price at the bottom as well. But that's pretty much how our quotes could look. But as I said, there are many different ways to break this down. You can change the whole layout of it. And as you can see, I actually forgot to put the quote summary. So if I wanted to put that on, you can just tick it and then it will break down that total cost, or you can just show a total price at the end. So that's the estimating component. Steve, I know you're eager to ask something, mate, so I'll let you speak.
Thanks, mate. So just jumping in, look, so I think, Luke, what you've just shown is a really quick, bunch of takeoffs,
yep.
Quote, right through to all the way through, some takeoffs, some estimates going out to the subbies, getting them to respond, having it come into the system rather than having to type it in and all this stuff. So that makes it a little bit faster for you. I'm actually going to ask, if John's available. I said to him we'll come back towards the end, but John, if you wouldn't mind putting your camera on as well. Hey, John, what's your take? Is this estimation piece, is it quick to actually get an actual quote out like that?
Are you talking about a quote request, or you're talking
the whole quote and quote to your customer? What's your take? Is it fast to get out to customers?
5 minutes, if that. Seriously, while we were just listening to that, I literally just uploaded all plans to a job, and I'm literally in the middle of doing a takeoff now of all the cladding and everything, and I've only literally just uploaded it within the last 5 minutes.
That's awesome.
Man, I'm not kidding. It's like once you get going, it's ridiculous how quick it actually is. Like, Steve, I spoke to you about I priced a $2 million project, one of my first ones that large, and I had about, I think, 26 quote requests. And like you're saying before, you get rid of all the stragglers that don't even. It's so simple, and you can see everything that's going on from the other side. It's easy, mate. It really, really is.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I thought I'd bring you on at this point real quick, just because builders, I'll just tell you a personal story of one of my friends, but I know John's had the same experience. One of my friends did high-end custom, builds. It'd take them 8-9 days. It might take them 8 hours to do all the estimation, but when they're on the tools all day, of course, it would take them 8-9 days, best case, absolute best case, to get back to a customer. What they figured out is that they could create a quote using BuildExact to an end customer really within an hour or 45 minutes. So what happens is the builder comes, the consumer comes in, they produce a quote to the customer pretty much that same day. They don't take it to them the same day. They go to them the next day and take them a full detailed quote. And all of a sudden, their win rate went through the roof, because they went through a full detailed quote and then simply said to them, look, we need to wait for trusses. We need to wait for some of these pieces. It's plus or minus this. But you can imagine as a consumer, if you're getting a full detailed quote that looks, with that kind of professionalism, with all the detail in it, and it really hasn't cost you any time as a builder, but as a consumer, you're getting it. Of course, the win rate goes through the roof. So they've been able to absolutely increase. These are some of my best friends, and they've been able to increase their business significantly. John, what's your take? Are you able to get back to customers relatively quickly?
Yeah, well, I've had a few over the years, in the last year or two, where I forgot to quote it, and I get a phone call or an email, and within 5 minutes I've submitted my quote, and they ring me and ask me, how do you even do that? And I'm just like, well, and having those recipes and all that set up, Steve, like it's incredible. Like, I did lose a job, just basically based on cost, but he actually even when he responded, he actually couldn't believe the detail and how everything was separated through your PC items, your provisional cost, all those things were set out in my bathroom template that I have. He actually even mentioned all that, even though I lost a job, basically on costings. But not just that, Steve. What I've been finding lately is I've started moving into a lot more strata stuff than all my new builds that I used to do, because what's happened is I can move so quick and I have the guys on site with my paperwork. I've actually started having strata companies ringing me just from word of mouth. I honestly, at the moment, cannot keep up with quoting. I reckon I've got 25 quotes from yesterday. 2 days ago, or even last week, I literally did about 23 quotes. I'm talking a lot of little ones for strata. I'm 10, 15, 20 grand, whatever they are. But I can punch those out. I can punch out nearly, I reckon, 7 or 8 quotes in an hour worth about 15, 20 grand each. Just based off using the program and getting used to it. It does take a little bit of time, but once you get used to it, it's just like, you think about, you add up 15 grand, 20 grand, 15 grand, 10 grand, it skyrockets. And a lot of the time in this type of industry, if you can get the quote in, a lot of the time, a lot of guys haven't got it in. People want to get the work done, and you win the job just by submitting a quote.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm chasing that market now over my new builds.
Wow, that's amazing. And okay, and so Luke, we're going to go back to you in a sec, because I know there's a second side of this that everyone wants to see, which is okay, that's great, that's quoting, but then you've got to be able to manage the schedule, you've got to be able to manage the jobs, you've got to be able to manage the invoicing, which is, again, that's the second part of the whole process that's going to take your time. And so I'm going to get you to show that, Luke, in a sec. Both myself and John will just step back for a second and let you show that. But I guess the key points that you're making, just want to summarize for people, is, look, if you get a professional quote to a customer in a really quick period of time and it really hasn't cost you any time to do it, you're working smarter, not harder, because it's saving you time. And especially with your prices there now from the likes of ITM, where you can look up the item numbers right there, and then you can look up the price. You don't have to wait for it. You can actually see it right within your environment. It's all saving time. So, Luke, do you want to just keep going ahead and show the guys how to schedule, how to manage, and specifically how to make sure you're making more profit?
Yeah, sounds good, Steve. Well, cheers for that, team. So yeah, as Steve said, it's, I guess, one thing winning the job. Second is managing the jobs that you win and ensuring that it is actually profitable and you're making the expected gross profit. So to create a job in Build Exact, let's say we've won this job, the quote's accepted, we can accept the estimate, and now we can create it. And we actually have 3 different invoice methods in here for, say, commercial. They do monthly claims, or for cost plus jobs or charge up jobs, maybe for insurance work, do cost plus, and then contract, which is probably our most popular. So we'll go with the contract. It takes us into the next screen here. And this is where we can start to manage it. So we've got a schedule, we've got actual costings, we have variation handling, and finally invoicing the client. So I'm going to firstly cover the schedule. And a lot of people I talk to don't really use a schedule. If they do, it's more of like a whiteboard or on their diary. And that's okay for some people, but I think with ours, the best thing about it is you can lay out the whole timeline and do things like set dependencies and make changes. And when changes happen, it sort of shifts with those changes the whole job. So if I show you what I mean, there's probably 3 key things I can show you here. Number 1 is, as I was talking about before, setting out dependencies. So let's just assume that the plumber starts here and then the next task is another week. And then after this, the roofer comes in for a couple of weeks. And then what you can do is you can start to intertwine these together, and these are called dependencies. So as everybody here probably knows that, schedules don't really run to plan on building. And if a change happens, say for 1 week, everything will move with that automatically. And what you can do with those changes is, instead of giving the whole site a call every time a change has been made, you can actually email the job task list out, and that's going to flick the whole revised schedule to all of your subcontractors and even employees, notifying them when their new start and end date is, and their name will be allocated towards their task as well. So yeah, really handy feature. Maybe at the end of the week, once you've made all your changes, you just flick out the email and everybody's up to date. Lastly, cherry on top, you can actually click into these tasks and assign them to the relevant trade. So I could assign this to Tim, the plumber, and then they can get an automatic reminder, say a couple of days before they're about to start. And that means that they're going to receive an automatic text message and an email directly from your phone number with a note saying, maybe give me a call if you can't attend or something like that. And I think the text messages just resonate a lot with New Zealand and Australian builders and trades, because some of them struggle with emails or keeping up with emails every day. But getting in front of them with the text is always a good one. And if they reply, it will go straight to their phone as well. And look, lastly, when things are completed, you just drag them out. So yeah, very simple Gantt chart, but yeah, really effective. And it's pretty much all you need for these sort of jobs. So the next is I'm going to cover actual costings last actually, but I'll quickly cover how to raise variations. And with the thousands and thousands of builders I've talked to, like I always come across a couple of sad cases that have been burnt through variations, not getting them formalized. I'll get quite friendly with the client, get it verbalized, get it done, mate, we'll sort it out at the end. And then when the end comes, they go, oh, I didn't think it was going to be that much. And you have to meet in the middle, and so on and so on. So I always advise people to really try hard to get variations formalized. So to do that, you press the plus button, and then for the description, you could say like extra downlights, and then maybe just put a flat fee of $5,000. You can break it down more if you want to. Put how many delay days in there, just so the client knows like that's actually going to take more time. And then you send that off BuildExact, and that's going to send a document directly to your client's email. And this is what the end product will look like for them. So they'll be able to see what this variation is, what the current and then the proposed contract total. So this is a really good one. And then they know exactly what it's going to cost. They know what's happening, and then they sign it off, name it, date it, and get it back to you. And look, if you get these signed, then you're pretty much guaranteed to always get your coin once they accept that. So that's how we raise variations in the software. And then look, once you win raise a variation and it's been approved, the next step is to actually invoice that quickly to the client so you can get a better cash flow. So the last step of BuildExact is actually sending out all your invoices. And being a cloud software, this actually integrates with Xero, Mild, or QuickBooks. So everything that you do in here will automatically sync into your accounting. And to send out an invoice, you basically just press the email button and then say okay and say send. And that's pretty much all there is to it. If you wanted to attach a variation, you can actually just attach that variation on the next claim and then send it off as well. Just so you're trickling down the variations and not waiting until that last completion stage, and then them being left with maybe $30,000 of variations and a bit of a sour taste in their mouth. So yeah, that's always a good one to do. And it'll also print them invoice statements and automatically send the physical invoice as well. Now, lastly, I'm going to cover actual costing. So I've actually loaded up a job in BuildExact that is partway through. So it's the same scenario that we were doing. And in the actual costings, it's where you can actually show all of your estimated costs that we've just quoted, but then it's going to show you like how you've performed inside each cost center, right down to the box and nails or cladding sheet if you want to. So if we look at this, we can see that we thought it was going to be 16 sheets, but it actually cost us 20 sheets at the end of the job. So when you start to realize this information quickly, the next quote that you do, you probably want to up your wastage by 20%. So these mistakes don't continue to happen over and over again and start to eat into that gross profit. And probably, one of my favorite sides of the software, this part, because it's how people can just learn quickly from their mistakes and essentially make more money in their future projects by analyzing this data. And just lastly, I'll quickly show you, if you ever wanted to print out reports Build Exact will break down the whole job for you. So then you can just go through at the end with the team, look out for any negatives or positives, and then use this to fine tune your next estimate and get a better cost out for your client. That's pretty much all I have to show you, team. Steve, do you want me to relay anything in particular, mate, that I've gone through? Or?
Thanks, Luke. Look, I think we want to take some questions in a moment and probably hear from John as well. I guess, what you've just shown, and just to summarise is, look, the scheduling piece takes you time. So, okay, you can get the scheduling there and you can automatically text message your subbies and get them on and even do weather delays and, get notifications to them and all that sort of stuff, which was cool. I think then you started talking about variations, and I suspect John, when I get him back on in a minute, we'll have some statements about that. But as builders, how many times does the consumer change their mind, right? I'm doing a little reno at the back, and I've changed my mind 6 times, even after agreeing, with the chippy of what I'm going to do. And so just being able to get that in some documentation, not lose margin there. But the one that really, and I think you were talking about the integrated invoices and going straight through to a Xero, or QuickBooks, or Maya, which is efficiency as well. But the one that I think you and I have both seen now that we've talked to the in your case thousands of customers, mine probably the hundreds of customers that I have after using Build Exact for a while. That costing piece, where you can get down to a dollars and cents accuracy about what you're doing. Now, we're in a time, again, where we're so busy. And what's amazing is, believe it or not, more builders go under in this period of time when they're busy and when there's more work on than they don't otherwise. Why? And especially at the moment, obviously you've got the supply challenges on. And the merchants can't really do anything about it because their material providers from overseas or in the country are upping on a weekly basis, or whatever it happens to be. So they're changing the prices as quickly as they can. But things are literally changing for them by the minute. So how do you make sure you make margin in that period? Well, I guess one thing to say, Luke, is that probably people don't worry about this as much when you're making heaps of margin, right? When you're making heaps of margin, people don't worry about this. But when you aren't, but when margin, you need to protect margin, this is the kind of tool that makes people get down to dollars and cents. So I've had builders, I don't know about you, Luke, but tell me that they can get down to dollars and cents accuracy and knew exactly what they were going to do. And so they knew, okay, we've lost a little bit here in the timber category because the price has gone up, or cladding because of the delays on cladding in New Zealand at the moment, or whatever it happens to be. But they're able to make it up in some other areas, so they make the margin.
For sure, Stephen. I guess to highlight that point, like, a lot of people have good intentions of doing this, and they may do it, but it's after the job has been completed. But with this, it's live. So as you're receiving invoice and paying, it lets you know where you're blowing out before the job ends. So then you know where to make this money up and keep on that gross profit to make the expected profit. So cool. Really cool. Now, I'm going to get John on just one last time. John, thanks so much for being here again. I really appreciate your time. So Luke, stay with us because we're going to have some Q&A in a moment. But just, I guess before I do that, if anyone needs to, I know some people might need to get going with their day. And I just want to say, look, if we've flown through the system today. What we wanted to do is make sure that we show you, look, we can help you save time, help you win more, and help you increase profit. So hopefully you've seen some of that and heard some of that from John as a customer. Then you've seen some of that from Luke. But what I would say is the best thing to do is actually get a personal time, with the likes of Luke, to go through it on your own personal basis and go, look, is it going to work for me? So if this is interesting to you, make sure after this, we'll send you a note, but make sure you book in your time, with Luke to get a demonstration of the product, because that way you can bring your own plan, you can have a look at it and go, okay, is it going to work for me as a person and as a business, etc. So John, again, thanks so much for being around. I just wanted to again throw to you. What's your take on the scheduling and the invoicing side and so on? Have you saved time in it? Has it helped you manage margin, etc.? Talk.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Like every job I tend to tender now, like as we touched on or not, but on your markups, you can put contingencies, you can put your builder's margin, or you can even do it in individual items. So, for an example, with a shortage now with timber and the price rises all the time, I'm finding myself, I have my builder's margin, but everything that comes from my supplier, I'll also put a 5% markup just in case we get a price rise. So there's all those items in there, and it's incredible. But the other thing is too, for an example, with your scheduling, that $2 million project I was telling you that I priced up, I was in my office at about 9:30 at night, finishing off all the paperwork, and it was due 9 o'clock the next morning. Now, as you know, how long, if anyone's done a program for a $2 million project, takes a long time, right? I didn't realise that part of the tendering process was to submit a program. Now I'm in my office at 9:30 at night, and it's due at 9 o'clock the next morning. I didn't know what to do. I spent all this time, and so what I did is I went into BuildExact, and on BuildExact, there's in your line item, you can just tick a button and add it to your schedule. You just grab that line item, 5 days, 10 days, 3 days, whatever it is. I did a $2 million project schedule in 15 minutes.
That's awesome.
It saved me. I haven't heard if I won that job yet or not, but either way, mate, like imagine I spent another week on that knowing doing that schedule and I didn't win that job. At least if I've lost that job, I've spent 15 minutes doing it, not 12 hours or something. So
that's
very important.
Yeah, really cool. All right. Well, listen, I want to, John, I know you need to get on your day in a sec. So I do want to, like, if you need to drop off, no problem. But if you're happy to answer some questions, I'm sure there's some customers who are keen to ask you some questions. Guys, I'm just going to encourage you, put in your questions in the chat if you'd like. If you'd like to, just press the raise your hand button. I'm happy to just unmute you and you can just talk. So are there any questions from the floor, guys? So John, while we're just waiting for that, so by the way, in terms of managing margin, you was talking about protecting the margin there, and I think that's so good. You're thinking through and making sure you're protecting the margin. But have there been times where you've used that? I don't know. Do you use that variation and invoicing piece as well?
I actually used it. I used it yesterday or day before. Sorry. I had a set of windows. I won a job. All got approved. I went to the job. The owner turned around and said, "Oh, I want all the added trims in the middle of the windows." So my supplier said, "Oh, that's a variation." I'm like, "Okay, no worries. That's fine. We'll have a look at what the cost comes in at." Came in at $1,000 just for trims. I sent the variation off. Bang! I got approval back. Away we go.
Right.
Really.
And like beforehand, correct me if I'm wrong, but these are the kinds of things that often, you have an email somewhere, you might have a text message somewhere, Go ahead. Sorry,
I've been through all of it, mate. I've even gone through and got, the carbon copies and writing it out, and you think you're covered and you can't find the carbon copy, that book's gone, and trying to find the book to get the variation, you have to you sit in your office and everything's just done.
Yeah, really cool.
Yeah.
Really cool. Well, I haven't seen many questions come through yet. We've answered a couple of questions, but is there any other questions before we close off today's webinar? Just want to double check. Just raise your hand or just put in the chat and I'll just unmute you real quick. I know some people must need to drop off. Again, guys, if you need to do a trial of the platform, you can, but I'd highly recommend you do a demo with the guys first. And my reason for saying that is they'll talk you through your business processes and how it works. And then, of course, you can do a trial from there and run it for yourself. So
yeah, so I was going to say, like, you could even send, like, if you book in with me or one of the team, send us a set of your own plans and just sit down over Zoom and go through some takeoffs together and just do it a little bit more slow pace. And you can tell us what you're sort of struggling with, what's taking your time, and we'll try to help out with that and find a faster way through BuildExact.
Very cool. All right, just check one last chance. Any other questions on you wanted to see something specific or wanted to ask John a question while we're here? Just press that chat button or raise your hand. Luke, it looks like you've done the best demo in world history. You got any questions at this point? Hopefully we didn't go too fast, you guys. Well, listen, Want to really thank you guys for taking your time to be here today and being part of this. John, especially thank you so much for yourself, volunteering your time to come in and be part of it and talk about your experience. So thank you so much, John.
Really no worries, guys. All the best.
All right. Thanks, guys. We'll leave it here.
John.
Have a great day.